If you have these players, you are probably panicking. You're probably worried that you're 0-2, maybe you're 1-1, and you drafted an absolute bum, an absolute bust. So today we're here to talk you down off the ledge, potentially, or maybe we're going to share your concerns, share your sentiment. What we're going to be doing today on a scale of 1 to 10, we're going to bring up some players, going to nominate some players. 1 being we're not worried about them at all. We still view them as just as good maybe as they were before the draft, or maybe they're the biggest buy low in all of fantasy. That would be like a 1. A 3, probably we're buying low, but we're moderately concerned. 6 or a 7 is like, yeah, the panic meter's kind of going. And then 10 is like, holy crap, get this guy off of your team. So, Danny, let's kick things off with the running back position. And the rookie running backs in general have a lot of people panicked.
Yeah, I mean, the rookie running backs were referencing Ashton Jeanty, Omarion Hampton, Treveyon Henderson, Harvey, and Kaleb Johnson. We'll go in order in terms of exactly out of 10 where we would be panicked right now. But for the most part, I mean, if you drafted a rookie running back, I mean, we're talking legitimately guys that were going in the top 5 rounds, top 6 rounds, all the way up to Ashton Jeanty, who's going on that 1-2 turn. And we don't have a single guy that's an RB1 or 2 in fantasy right now.
Yeah, Jeanty RB27 right now, Hampton RB45, Henderson RB32, Harvey RB46, Kaleb Johnson down at RB92. Shout out to Kaleb Johnson. And I saw him get dropped in some leagues that I was in. So I know that he's absolutely somebody that people are panicked on. But let's kick it off with Jeanty, and we can keep this one brief because we did talk about this in yesterday's video as we're buying low on Jeanty. I'll give you my kind of panic meter number on Jeanty. I would say I'm at like a 2 or a 3. I'm not at a full-blown not concerned at all, but I also just generally lean towards he's a buy low. As I said in yesterday's video, it's a new quarterback, it's a new system, new offensive line kind of pieces shuffling together. And a rookie running back generally in the month of September is probably going to have, his lumps, take his lumps, get hit in the backfield, not really figure out how to break NFL tackles to the degree that he was doing at Boise State. So for me, not really worried about Jeanty, but I get why people might be.
Yeah, I mean, the yards before contact generated by the Raiders offensive line, I think I worded it weirdly in yesterday's video, but that's exactly how I meant to phrase it. The yards before contact for the Raiders offensive line simply isn't existing right now. Ashton Jeanty's getting hit behind the line of scrimmage. Ashton Jeanty's going to have to make people miss just to even gain, 1 or 2 yards on some carries. I think part of it is the fact that, like you mentioned in that video, Chip Kelly coming over, new quarterback, offensive line, obviously not used to playing fully with each other. Like, there's going to be a little bit of a learning curve here. However, with that being the case, you also combine that with the fact that New England bolstered up their front. LA Chargers, one of the better run defense in the league since Jesse Minter took over. I think the get right spot might very well be this week going up against Washington.
Yeah, and Jeanty's getting the usage too. That's partially why I'm not really panicked on him. Like in week 1, he had better usage. Then week 2, he was 87% of the snaps in week 1. I think he was down to 58% in week 2. But the game environment was kind of weird. They kind of abandoned the run against the Chargers because the Chargers are absolutely nails against fantasy running backs. I think the targets are the thing that I've been most disappointed with Jeanty. I mean, he had 22% targets per route run last week, but in week 1, he was kind of sparingly used there. And we did see Dylan Laube get used in like the long down and distance, like 2-minute drill stuff. I heard the underdog guys talking about this, but when you draft a guy 6th overall, he needs to be on the field for the important stuff. You want to mix in Zamir White every once in a while. You want to mix in Dylan Laube every once in a while. If it's an important carry, an important 3rd down and distance kind of play, Jeanty needs to be on the field.
Yeah, it's as simple as that. You draft a running back 6th overall. You don't want to see him being subbed out for a guy that the year before was, a 7th round pick, undrafted free agent with Dylan Laube?
Yeah, pretty much. And like with Jeanty in general, I would say lean towards buying low. Panic meter's pretty low for me right now. We see 2 more games where he doesn't look great. Like there was a chart that I put in the last video of his rush yards over expected, and it was near the bottom of the NFL because, he hasn't been really... It's not that he hasn't been making people miss or breaking tackles and that kind of thing. It's just he's not necessarily getting what's there. He's getting tackled at points where maybe a veteran running back would know to just take the 3 yards or whatever the case is. So be patient with Jeanty. Like another thing just on this whole conversation around rookies, last year, Bucky Irving was RB41 through the first 5 games of the season. Jahmyr Gibbs in his rookie season, RB33 through the first 4 games of his rookie year. Kenneth Walker, RB67 through the first 4 games of his career. Devon Achane, if you remember, in week 3 was one of the biggest waiver ads of the year because he was basically inactive for the first 2 games. So you can be an elite rookie running back and have a monster rookie season and not really be totally relevant in the month of September.
Exactly. So for that reason, you mentioned you were at what, a 2 or 3 out of 10. I would agree with you there. I'd probably be at about a 2 or 3. The only reason that there's even concern isn't even with Jeanty itself. It's more so the Raiders offense. Again, they will have better days, but 29 points scored through 2 games. You definitely want to see more from Geno Smith. You definitely want to see more from the offense as a whole. But I do trust the situation long term. I think on paper, this is about a top 20-ish level offense, and they've currently been playing like a bottom 3 level offense.
Yeah, they've been playing really bad, and Geno was absolutely awful. Let's pivot to Omarion Hampton. I can say comfortably that my panic level is higher on Omarion Hampton than it is on Ashton Jeanty for 2 reasons. Number one, Hampton did see a little bit of reduced usage in week 2 with Najee Harris kind of working back into the fold a little bit more than he was before. And Omarion Hampton, of the 2 of them, also looks worse. Like he fumbled at the end of the game. That might result in reduced snaps. His, I would say, running style is a bigger adjustment in the NFL than Jeanty's running style, which we saw this with Jonathan Taylor, his rookie season. When you're a gap runner, when you need holes kind of blown open for you, you're going to use your size, your speed, your athleticism to break away. Until you have that like vision, kind of understand the NFL game, when a hole is about to open up, the anticipation that you need, it might take you a little bit of time. And we saw, what is it, like 8-9 games of Jonathan Taylor's rookie season where he was like downright bad, like his, sub 60 PFF grade wasn't running really well. And then by the end of the season, he really took off and figured things out. Now, I don't know when it's coming for Omarion Hampton. So that's why I would say only buy low on him if you're 2-0 right now. And if you can handle adding him to your team, because if you're buying him thinking he's going to be the early 3rd round, redraft asset that you probably drafted him to be, I would say we got to temper expectations a little bit more.
You can't be trading for him at the cost that he was going into the year. You can't be trading for him at a 2-3 turn valuation, at even an early to mid 3rd valuation. Like if you're buying Omarion Hampton, it's because you put yourself in a good position. Maybe you're 1-1 with a ton of points scored. Maybe like Corey said, you're a 2-0 team that can inherit some risk. If you're getting him for like a 4th round price tag, 90 cents on the dollar type of transaction, I would agree with you there. I mean, with Omarion Hampton, I'd probably put my nervous level, my panic level at about a 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10, simply because the Chargers offensive line right now doesn't look good. And Omarion Hampton, like you said, a little bit of a learning curve. But Jonathan Taylor, however, like you were mentioning, he didn't have a single game with over 5 yards per carry until week 6 of his rookie season. So there's still hope. Omarion Hampton, we know what he is, an explosive runner, 220 plus pounds. We trust the Chargers offense because, I mean, Justin Herbert looks like one of the 5 best quarterbacks on earth. If Omarion Hampton can just play better and we get some more push up front, especially in, I would say, probably better matchups moving forward specifically, I think we're going to see it from Omarion Hampton. It's just, is it going to be sooner or is it going to be later? Is it going to be week 4 or is it going to be week 7?
Yeah. And again, similar to Jeanty, rookie running backs take time, especially like, I wish I would have listened to myself a little bit more, because by the end of the offseason, I was right there with you on Hampton, ranking him as a 2-3 turn player. But if you remember earlier in the offseason, I was a little bit higher on, hey, maybe Najee Harris factors into this backfield. Omarion Hampton, the prospect, was a little bit more raw as a runner. I thought it might take him a little bit of time to adjust to the NFL game. So I kind of wish I would have stuck to that a little bit more, because it appears that's what's taking place. And also, too, part of the Omarion Hampton thesis was that they were going to run like crazy, and they are not running like crazy right now. Like the first half, what do you have, 2 carries in the first half of that game against the Raiders?
Number 1 in pass rate over expectation right now is what the Chargers offense is. The, run heavy Roman scheme that we expected coming into the year. They've just said, hey, Justin Herbert, you're a great quarterback. Let's see what you can do for us. And again, that was probably always the optimal way to play it on offense. Like, you have one of those guys, you have a guy like Justin Herbert, you should just inherently be throwing the football, but it's just something that we didn't see to this level last year. And you make the investment in the 1st round running back, you're connecting the tea leaves. It does look like they're going to run the ball more, but I mean, Justin Herbert, when he's playing this well, why would you take it out of his hands?
Yeah, no, there's absolutely no reason why you wouldn't. Treveyon Henderson also, I would say he's looked better of the 3 running backs we've talked about so far. He's averaging 4.6 yards per carry, getting it done as a receiver. He is quietly only averaging 1.63 yards after contact per attempt, which is something that maybe has my ears perked up a little bit, because as a prospect, I didn't think Henderson was like exceptional through contact unless you get him into space. If you got to break contact versus DTs and edge rushers, I was a little bit worried about Henderson in that regard. But as far as my panic level, because we just saw this past week, Ramondre Stevenson really take a lion's share of the touches and have like a top 10 scoring week from a fantasy perspective, I would say my panic level is about the same as Hampton, but for a different reason. I just think that Stevenson might be a bigger part of this backfield longer into the season than Harris will be to Hampton. And even though I think Henderson has looked better of the 2, I do worry about we heard whispers early in the offseason that like Henderson, the Patriots want to use him in a role. The Patriots want to use him as like a 1A back. Like, I don't think that, like, if Hampton starts playing better, he's going to be an 80% workhorse. I don't know if the Patriots will ever get there with Henderson. So that's part of why I'm a little bit more concerned about him. But generally, I would say he's probably about where I expected him to be.
I'm at a 2 here. I'm not concerned at all. Like Ramondre Stevenson, he had a big game, 16 touches. He looked good. I get it. At the end of the day, though, the whole thesis for Treveyon Henderson was when the critical weeks matter, this is going to be a guy that's going to be a big-time advantage in your lineup, and he's actually looked good. I can't say that about Omarion Hampton right now. I can't say that about Ashton Jeanty right now. Treveyon Henderson has looked good, has been efficient. The main thing is like we need more than 16 touches in 2 weeks. I think it's something that if he keeps looking as good as he has been, if he keeps looking that explosive, maybe breaks off a couple more chunk plays in a reserve role, we start to see the touches expand. And honestly, I think when the Patriots see him on Sundays, it won't take long. It won't take a, half the year, 10-week level ramp up. I think it's going to be, by week 5 or week 6, we're going to know that Treveyon Henderson's the starting running back, and he's going to be a 15 to 18 opportunity per game type of guy.
Yeah, well, and they did come out last week before the game and basically say like, hey, we wanted to get him more involved, and then that didn't materialize. So again, with rookie running backs, sometimes it happens quickly. Like you think, okay, this guy's like a 30-40% snap share guy, and then all of a sudden he has a 60% snap share in week 3, and he's the number one. You should have bought low on him, kind of, no duh, he was going to take over the backfield kind of thing. Him and Harvey are very similar, so we can kind of probably talk about both of them, because Harvey is in a similar situation. J.K. Dobbins, former productive fantasy running back, Ramondre Stevenson, same thing. RJ Harvey also, there was a Zach Stevens, I believe, came out earlier this week before week 2's game and said that they wanted to get RJ Harvey more involved. So it was very similar, like buzz. You were thinking maybe you had to buy low on them after week 1 to like catch the meteoric rise at these guys. Because the second they get the workload, it's possible these guys are both top 15 rest of season running backs, given the offenses that they play for, the fact that they can contribute as a receiver. But we didn't really see that out of RJ Harvey. 31% of the snaps in week 1, 31% of the snaps in week 2. We also saw Tyler Beatty more involved in week 2 than we did in week 1. It looked like it was just Dobbins and Harvey in week 1, and then Beatty became more involved in week 2. So for me on Harvey, I would say I'm less concerned than Henderson, because I think that Dobbins is a smaller hindrance than Stevenson is. And I also respect the fact that the Broncos were consistent in their message throughout the offseason for the most part, that they did want RJ Harvey to be like a versatile joker type of guy. Whereas Henderson, the messaging has a little bit been conflicting at times.
I'm honestly a lot more scared of Dobbins than I am Ramondre Stevenson, but I think that was baked into the cost. Like I always thought coming into the year that Dobbins would be a hindrance to RJ Harvey, whereas with Treveyon Henderson, I was drafting him as to be the RB1. So if you're basing it based off expectations, I think the concern level would be about a 2, because I expected J.K. Dobbins to get a good amount of the carries. Then I expect him to get, 60-65% of the work, not necessarily, but I think the thesis coming in, at least for the immediate month, would be that J.K. Dobbins is probably going to be a 40 to 45% back, and we've seen probably about 15 to 20% more than we expected. I do think in the long term, RJ Harvey is the back down here, but I would probably put my concern level for Harvey at about a 3. I'm going to notch it up 1, simply because I think in the context of a Treveyon Henderson, sooner rather than later, they're going to see that he's outplaying Ramondre Stevenson. It's going to be a moot point. I think with J.K. Dobbins, there's a very real possibility he can keep the efficiency going forward, because we do trust the Broncos situation of the offensive line there. And Sean Payton has shown in the past, man, if you're going to be efficient, he's going to ride the hot hand.
Yeah, and you know what? I want to change my answer a little bit. I was at around a 5 for Treveyon Henderson, and I would say I'm generally still about there, maybe like a 4.
Yeah.
But I'm going to put Harvey about the same, just because the prospect Treveyon Henderson was also better than the prospect RJ Harvey.
That's
so it's more possible that he's just better as a player, and that's why he wins out the workload. And you're probably right about Dobbins as well, that he is a bigger hindrance than Ramondre Stevenson. Generally speaking, I'd say if you drafted these guys, you should have known what you were expecting, which is that in the month of September, you probably weren't going to be able to comfortably throw them into your starting lineup. At best, they were going to be kind of flex options for you, and you probably were supposed to draft in round 9, Travis Etienne or something, who could be a early season guy for you.
That's why you do archetypal drafting. You take your shots. Treveyon Henderson's still a guy that we have a ton of upside for long term. RJ Harvey still a guy that we have a ton of upside for long term. That's why you pair them with like you said, the Travis Etienne backs, the Jalen Warrens, guys like that who maybe by week 9, week 10 are not going to be as useful as they are now. But in the first month of the year, they can get you through touches. For example, in our listener league, I'm going to be starting David Montgomery, a guy that I drafted in the 7th round, over Treveyon Henderson, a guy that I've drafted in the 4th. And I think that's a very reasonable play until Henderson shows me he's getting 10, 12 plus touches. He's not going to be in the lineup. And I have good enough options to be able to do that with. I like Cooper Kupp. I can plug into the flex as well. And I got him in like the 10th.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. Kaleb Johnson, we can kind of just skim through. I guess the only question here is he completely unrosterable? Because I think the panic level should be at least 10 out of 10 right now.
Yeah, there's no question. This is a 10 out of 10. He was drafted in the 6th round. When you draft a guy in round 6 of your fantasy draft, you're expecting a guy that not only is rosterable, but a guy that could potentially enter your lineup within the first 2 weeks of the season. And I mean, Kaleb Johnson has 2 total touches in that stretch. Kaleb Johnson just contributed a terrible special teams mistake that could have him riding pine realistically for the next 8 weeks. I would not be shocked, given Arthur Smith, given Mike Tomlin, if he doesn't see a single offensive touch for the next 8 weeks.
Well, yeah, and coming into the season, did anybody expect Kenneth Gainwell to be 46% of the snaps through the first game of the first 2 games of the season? No. So Kaleb Johnson, deeper benches, sure, hold on to him, roster him, see what happens for the next couple of weeks. But yeah, shallow leagues, 5 bench spot, 12, 10, 8-man leagues, definitely not rosterable.
See ya.
Absolutely. So those rookie running backs, again, should have expected slow Septembers out of these guys, but this was a very good class. And I if you said gun to my head coming into the season, would one of these guys really start strong? I would have said Omarion Hampton probably did. I would have said Ashton Jeanty probably did. Henderson and Harvey were a little bit more expected, but yeah, the first 2 guys, especially off the board, the first round running backs probably should be better through the first 2 games. 2 other running backs that we can kind of gauge our panic meter on, and then we'll go into the wide receiver position. We can go a little bit faster going through those. Chase Brown, we talked about in yesterday's video. I mean, panic meter has to be somewhere because he no longer has Joe Burrow. But relative, if you adjust kind of to the fact that we all know he doesn't have Joe Burrow probably for the rest of the fantasy football season.
Well, that's the thing. Like, are we doing this in relation to the newfound expectation we have for him? Or are we doing this in the expectation of where we valued him coming into the season? Because if it's the latter, I think you have to be at about at least a 7, if not an 8.
Yeah, you're probably right about that. Because if you took Chase Brown, you probably spent a mid-second round pick on him because that's where you and I had him ranked. Maybe you got him in the 3rd round because you were lucky there. But yeah, I'd say as of now, if we redrafted today, knowing that Jake Browning is going to start for the rest of the season, this is probably like a 4th round pick.
I was going to say 3-4 turn. Like, realistically, if you were taking him in the mid to late second, again, I was taking him a lot there. You were taking him a lot there. The profile was a mid-range RB1, if not higher, given Joe Burrow and the scoring opportunities in this offense. He's still getting this workload, but until we see more from Jake Browning, I think you'd be happy with a high-end running back 2-level finish, if not a low-end RB1. And if you're drafting that at like RB7, RB8, I mean, that's a silent killer. That's the definition of silent killer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's got to be more in the Alvin Kamara, Chuba Hubbard conversation right now. Because, like, gun to my head, I would rather have Travis Etienne rest of season. I would rather have Kyron Williams rest of season. I would rather have Kenneth Walker rest of season. There's guys that you can definitely argue, depending on how Jake Browning plays, that you got to be worried about Chase Brown. And unfortunately, this is just the shit end of the stick. If you drafted Chase Brown, he didn't get injured, but his quarterback did.
Yeah, I mean, I still have him in my top 15 running back. So a couple of those guys like Kyron, for example, I would still go with Chase Brown because I think, I mean, realistically, even though Chase Brown's been inefficient, Kyron hasn't been really efficient either, but he's definitely in that tier. And he's a guy that I would have considered a hair off of the 2nd tier coming into the season. So 8 out of 10 feels very fair for that.
Yeah, for sure. Isiah Pacheco, who I should be the one to talk about this as somebody who rosters Isiah Pacheco in a lot of leagues, including the Flock League. I would say I would be take lock to say anything lower than like a 7 or an 8. It's take lock. If I seriously go, oh yeah, like I'm a 3 out of 10 worried about Isiah Pacheco, it's take lock. But I will say 60% of the snaps in the Kansas City Chiefs offense last week generally will bode better for you than what Isiah Pacheco has done in fantasy so far. So it's not that I'm like completely out on the guy. And I generally lean still on the side of buying him because right now most people will value him as like a high-end RB3, low-end kind of flex play, maybe even droppable in some cases. Like I've seen people in our comments say, should I drop Isiah Pacheco for X, Y, and Z player? Like people are viewing him as droppable. And given the usage, 60% of the snaps, 53% of the rushing attempts, 50% route participation in that game against the Eagles is also pretty solid. I would say the usage and the fact that the Kansas City Chiefs shouldn't be 0-2 the rest of the season would gear you towards, okay, maybe he's a slight buy low relative to expectations. But where you drafted him, you have to be at about a 7 or an 8. Relative to new expectations, I'm at about 3 or 4, meaning I'd be buying low. But where you drafted him, probably 7 or 8.
Yeah, massacre of an opening 2-game stretch going up against the Chargers, going up against the Eagles with Jalen Carter back. Like, that's going to affect it. But I mean, I think at least this has to be like an 8, possibly a 9, honestly. I mean, Pacheco himself just doesn't look like himself. And more importantly, man, we're seeing way too much Kareem Hunt. Like, way too much Kareem Hunt for my liking.
Yeah, so it's not that Isiah Pacheco looks awful.
No, I know. He just doesn't look like what we expected coming into the year. I think
in the first game, he actually had a little bit more juice when he got opportunities. He was like over 4 yards a carry and he looked worse in the Eagles game for sure. Like, he looked really bad in the Eagles game. So that's definitely not great. Like I said, the one thing I'm kind of hanging my hat on here is that even if it is more Kareem Hunt, then, it's too close for comfort on that. 60% of the snaps and 53% of the carries and 50% of the routes, that's still like usable RB2 type of workload in this offense. Once they're going up against the Giants this week, that should be a game that they can win. I would expect Isiah Pacheco's market opinion to change after this week, which is why I'm kind of leaning towards more on the buy if it's really cheap kind of end of things.
I understand the Cowboys hung 40 on the Giants, but like, it's still not a cupcake defensive line to play against.
No, but the Chiefs haven't been winning a game for like more than a quarter this season. Like, they've been losing pretty much the entire year.
Yeah, no, and again, I think it should be a bounce back spot, but like, I'm not expecting his efficiency, for example, to just skyrocket out of nowhere here. Like, I think if he got there, it would be like a 16 carry, 63 yard, maybe he punches in a touchdown type of game.
Yeah, and I would probably be talking about him as a sell high if that happens, for what it's worth. I just think that right now, like, people are actually talking about dropping this guy, which is why I'm like, he's definitely more valuable than that.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. I moved him down significantly, though. We're talking about a guy that coming into the year, probably around that RB19, RB20 range for us. I think it's almost take lock if you have him anywhere close to the top 28 running backs.
In my rest of season rankings, he is RB29. So, I mean, he's in that tier. He's in that tier, but he's at the back end of it. Like, for example, Aaron Jones is out for 4 weeks. Like, I would absolutely take Jordan Mason over him going forward. The rookie running backs, we talked about RJ Harvey's just a few spots ahead of him for me. But once you get in the range of like Bill, Jalen
I have Bill way higher.
He's a short-term guy. I'm just lower on Bill, the player. I think that McNichols and Rodriguez are going to be involved in the backfield. But I think once you're talking about Pacheco versus David Montgomery's and Jalen Warren's and J.K. Dobbins of the world, I'm fine still rolling with Pacheco in that situation.
I need to know who's in your top 30 because I have all those guys pretty comfortably over Pacheco right now.
I have Swift, Mason, Judkins, Pollard, Connor, Javonte Williams, Treveyon Henderson immediately ahead of him.
Okay, so I have the same guys. I guess that's the difference between like 29 and 32. I just personally think at this point, there's no way you can take him over Jalen Warren. There's no way you can take him over Bill, and there's no way you can take him over David Montgomery.
I have him ranked over all of those players.
I think you got to adjust that. Maybe.
Again, I'm holding out hope. I think that Pacheco has a bounce back game this week. Maybe it's take lock, and I absolutely will bury the shit out of him if he has another bad game again. But 60% of the Chiefs snaps and 53% of the carries and 50% of the routes to me screams buy low candidate.
Comments can let us know they can do their job, but I think that's pretty much wraps in terms of the running back position. We can go on to the wide receiver, and I mean, we'll brief through quarterbacks and tight ends at the end, but for the most part, if you guys are watching this, you clicked on, you're probably asking about a flex type of position. And I think at the top of wide receiver, I mean, first and foremost, this tweet by Josh Norris. If you're completely panicking on the guys you took in the first round and the second round, after week 2 of last season, London, wide receiver 38, Mcconkey, wide receiver 39, Jacoby Myers, 53, Sutton, 66, Terry McLaurin, wide receiver 70. Like, it'll happen, man. Wide receiver specifically, even more than running back, is such a variance-based position. Like, you'll see a running back, if they get 20 carries, some weeks they'll average 6 yards per carry, some weeks they'll average 3, but that'll be the vary of their production. With wide receiver, because there's so many factors that go into getting a target, you could be Drake London one week who gets 15 targets, and then in the context of the next game on a Sunday Night Football where Penix doesn't have to throw the football, get 4 targets. You know what I mean?
Yeah. like Jordan Addison last year was wide receiver 64 through the first 2 games. Like you could go through, there's a million examples that you could go through and be like, yeah, sometimes the first 2 games just don't go your way. For whatever reason, you had 8 targets and you only caught 3 of them for 36 yards or something like that. That's kind of like the AJ Brown stat line from this past week. Shit happens, man. AJ Brown is wide receiver 85 or something right now in fantasy. But Justin Jefferson is the first guy that we're talking about. Panic level on Justin Jefferson relative to the expectations that you would have had when you have Justin Jefferson on your fantasy team. I would say has to be, like you said, a 7 or an 8.
Yeah. I would say like 6 if you were pessimistic on JJ coming into the year, 7 or 8 if you were higher on him like we were. This is just not what you want to see from a guy you invested mid-first round pick in. Like if I look through my rest of season rankings right now, Justin Jefferson comes in as my 11th overall player. And I think 11th overall player might even be optimistic. Like we're talking about closer to guys like Nico, Drake London. Even, I mean, if we go down to the second rounders, if somebody said, hey, I prefer Bucky Irving, Devon Achane, Jonathan Taylor to Justin Jefferson, I wouldn't call them crazy.
No, I wouldn't either. Like you could definitely make the argument for it. I have him at 12. So if we redrafted today, again, I'm taking a nice little haircut off of what I think of Justin Jefferson. It has absolutely nothing to do with Justin Jefferson, the player. We all know he's one of, if not the best receiver in the league. But this quarterback looks bad. And could you make the argument that, yes, he's going to get better and all that kind of stuff? But like, this seems like a soft benching to me, what's going on right now, where he has an ankle issue that he could probably play through. Like if he were Joe Burrow or Patrick Mahomes or something, he's probably playing Sunday. But because he's JJ McCarthy and maybe looks a little bit overwhelmed by the speed of the NFL game, they're like, how about you sit down for a couple of games, let Carson kind of run the offense, and then we'll see what happens when you come back.
I mean, it's a 21-year-old quarterback. He missed his entire rookie season. Like, we should have expected a slow start. And to be honest, do I think it's actually a bad idea to have him just, rest up, get fully healthy? They have an early bye week. I think it's a week 6 bye week. So we could see JJ McCarthy come out in week 7, look a lot healthier. And maybe we see that expectation end up beating reality because, I mean, we saw the flashes. 4th quarter against the Bears, the comeback that they had, like, JJ McCarthy can be a good quarterback in the league, but we have 6 of the 8 quarters that he's played this year where it just simply hasn't been up to par. And who knows, maybe we see Justin Jefferson have the production. Carson Wentz kind of pulls the Sam Darnold from last year, but projecting that to happen, like, I need to see it first before I just anoint, Carson Wentz the savior.
Yeah, no, it's not a great situation. Like, because the expectation coming into the season was that JJ would be, let's say 90% of what Sam Darnold was last year. And that is absolutely nowhere close to the case right now.
Not at all
like
right now.
Addison, this was supposed to be Jefferson's time to really put up gaudy numbers because Addison suspended the first 3 games too.
Yeah. If you drafted Jefferson for that early season production, I mean, a guy that I had ranked going into week 1, top 3 wide receiver in my rankings. Last week, top 3 wide receiver in my rankings. It's like, where are we ranking Jefferson? Like, realistically, is he going to be the wide receiver 8 going into next week?
It's hard because every other receiver that's going in that range is like also
has been
disappointed you.
Which I mean, we could
Puka or neighbors, like you haven't really been excited with any receiver that you took in the first 2 rounds.
Yeah, I mean, let's go. We may as well just go on because Jefferson, we're at agreeance, 7, 8 type of worry based off where we expected coming into the year. Mid-first round pick, probably not feeling good about that investment. We'll go to the guys that we're maybe less worried on comparatively. Nico Collins, he ends up scoring a touchdown in that game. I mean, that toe tap on the sideline, you were able to watch the game completely from front to end, obviously, as a Bucs fan. I mean, the Texans passing offense just hasn't looked good, but Nico Collins, the player, hasn't been the problem.
No, I would say he's not doing Stroud any favors, though. It's not like he looks dominant out there either. Like him and like, we'll talk about BTJ in a second too. Like they kind of are the same case where it's like, if they start playing better, things will go better for them. But the very concern that I had for Collins for most of the offseason, which is like this offensive line, CJ Stroud, are we getting the sophomore CJ Stroud or the freshman CJ Stroud? That's kind of playing itself out right now. And I actually think that Christian Kirk coming back this week or next week or whatever
should help him
do a lot for the offense. Cause I actually
the
think
rookies
the
aren't
problem
ready.
is sustaining drives and getting first downs. And Collins is the big play guy. Collins is the touchdown red zone guy. If they can't sustain drives and get first downs, then Collins doesn't have opportunities to be able to work over the top. The other problem for Collins too is that the run game last year with Joe Mixon was so much better than the run game this year with Nick Chubb. And when you're a big receiver like this who makes money off of big plays and you have no play action threat, that can definitely hurt your, big downfield plays that you had last year.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, though, my worry is probably about a 3 because I think elite.
I'm at like a
talent's
6
gonna
or
win.
a 7 with Collins.
I think the elite talent's going to end up winning out here. But I do think, I mean, I don't know if it's the Texans rotation right now. Like we're seeing Justin Watson out there. Like we just got to get as much talent as we can on the field. We don't have the offensive line to be able to have Nico Collins and, fucking randoms on the field like Justin Watson. Like you need to trust your second round pick. You need to trust your third round pick. You need to trust your top 4 pick quarterback with CJ Stroud, second overall pick quarterback with CJ Stroud. It's just at this point, we're not seeing enough talent on the field for that Texans offense, and the play caller is not doing them any favors.
Yeah, like my thing with Collins is that if we redrafted today, it's not that there'd be a
Early
bunch of
second.
receivers hopping him necessarily. It would be that a bunch of these running backs like the Irvings and the JTs and the Achans of the world would maybe be hopping over him. And I would probably take him in the mid to late second round as opposed to the late first round, early second round that he was going. So my concern level for me is like that ultimate top 3 overall upside at the position feels to me like it might be challenging in this offense. And I think he's more of a mid to low end wide receiver 1 projection, which downgrades expectations for me a little bit. So that's why I'm at like a 5 or a 6.
Yeah. So I'm at about a 3. I actually, I'll bump it to a 4 because the offense just simply looks like one of the 5 worst in football right now. And that is well below what my expectation was, even if I thought they were an average unit. Well, let me pose you this question. We talked about Justin Jefferson. We just talked about Nico Collins. I have these 3 wide receivers ranked back to back to back. And the guy that I now have highest is Drake London. My concern level for Drake London, 1 out of 10.
It's at a 1 for me. I'm not even concerned about him at all.
But I saw people mention it. Again, he's wide receiver 50 right now. Like, guys, he has 19 targets through 2 games. And when Michael Penix has played, guess what? We're talking about a 35% target share player. So I said the get right week would happen on Sunday Night Football. Now, unfortunately, the Vikings didn't remember to show up to that game. Like the Vikings offense was so bad to the point where the Falcons say, guess what? Why would we air out the football if we know JJ McCarthy and the Vikings offense on the other side isn't going to put up a ton of points? So it was a cruiser of a game. What ended up finishing 12-6?
Yeah, it was just hand the ball to 7 and let's get out of here with a win kind of thing. It was Bijan and Algier did pretty much everything for the Falcons offense in that game. I think there's going to be plenty of games where Drake London will have to get right. I also saw some fantasy docs saying that his shoulder injury that he suffered against the Buccaneers should be fully healed by week 3 as well. So that's maybe also a factor of why he didn't have a great game in week number 2. So yeah, my panic level on Drake London is like the lowest of anyone in this video. To me, is probably one of the single biggest buy lows in all of fantasy football right now.
I completely agree. And if I didn't talk about him in week 1, he actually would have been on this week's buy low video. But hey, we can't have 100% rote participation, video participation for Drake London.
Yeah, no. So he's really easy. The other receivers that you kind of made reference to there, Lad Mcconkey and Brian Thomas Jr. were both in yesterday's video. So we can kind of breeze through this. It's clear that both of them are buy lows for us, which means that they're like 3 or lower on the scale. For you, you seem to be a little bit less concerned about Brian Thomas Jr. than I am. And it's mainly just because I didn't see Brian Thomas Jr. playing at the highest level. He's got a wrist injury. Is that going to linger? Yeah. He's dealing with some stuff mentally because, of course, his former college teammate took his own life, Kyron Lacey. Apparently, he's been going through it mentally for that perspective. And I'm adjusting expectations as a result. So that's why he's not at a 1 for me. It's like I'm adjusting expectations. He's a 4 or a 5 for me.
Yeah, I think 2 or 3 is where I'm going to be at. He was a guy that coming into the season, I would have had at wide receiver 7, I believe is where I ended up having him. The wide receiver spot I have him at now is at 10. So, I mean, if you're doing that adjustment, 7 through 10, 3. I'm going to say I'm at a 3 out of 10. Overall, in terms of the full landscape, when we add running backs, though, I have him as my 18th overall player moving forward. So not a guy that I'd be willing to take on the 1-2 turn like he was going, but I'd still be comfortable spending a mid-second round pick valuation because you're still getting 19 targets. The Jaguars are still throwing the fuck ton out of the football, and he's too talented of a player to keep playing this bad. It's really the nuts and bolts for me.
Yeah, he's my 301 if we redrafted today. So I'm a little bit lower. Like I said, just a little bit concerned about the way that he's playing. And is that going to continue? Because if there was a world in which, same with Collins, I thought he could be a top 5 receiver, a top 3 receiver on the season, I'm feeling less optimistic about that being his ceiling this year.
Yeah, I mean, for example, a guy like Amon-Ra St. Brown has risen a lot for me. Like he's going to be like very above them. We talked about Drake London. Don't have to really talk about like Malik Neighbors right now. The guy is absolutely scorching earth.
Yeah, I am at 12. So the 2 guys difference are probably Mcconkey, who we can talk about now, and AJ Brown, who we talked about in yesterday's video as well. Those are the 2 guys that are probably different for who I have above Thomas versus you.
Well, I mean, we could talk about both those in a second, but we have the Jaguars wide receivers grouped together. We talked about Brian Thomas Jr. I think Travis Hunter has to be mentioned because, I mean, it's just been a weird dynamic on this Jaguars offense. He only plays 60% of the routes in week 2. However, I'm not concerned in the long term. At the end of the day, he would have had 2 huge plays if Trevor Lawrence was an inch away. Like that's really what I look at it. Now, obviously, the concern level has to be about 3 or 4 out of 10. Because I thought it would look cleaner coming out. I thought the offense would look better coming out. I thought Trevor Lawrence would look better coming out. But at the same time, he's one where if you're asking me, am I panic selling? Am I dropping him, off a cliff in my rankings? I moved him down to, I believe, wide receiver 23 moving forward. He was at 16, moving to 23. That's the adjustment that I'm going to make on him.
Yeah, I am at 27. So if you're at a 3 or 4, I'm probably at a 5 right now. Yeah. It's not that I'm totally out or in on buying him or anything like that. I think you just firmly have to hold him. If you have him, you should hold him. If you're looking to buy him, I would say maybe wait for more information on what's going on with his route participation and things of that nature, because Hunter is going to be a guy that, because he's playing 2 positions, is probably going to take a little bit of time to develop and that kind of thing. He's also getting kind of like manufactured looks as opposed to
the Wandale role.
2 wide receiver set, work as a downfield guy, which is what I would like to see more of. So again, just hold water with Hunter. Don't panic sell him or anything. But again, I'm not aggressively buying him either.
So what did I say to you? I think it was either yesterday or the day before. I basically said, I'm like, did Wandale Robinson and Travis Hunter like Freaky Friday their shit? Because like we have Wandale Robinson looking explosive, making plays out of the slot, and we have Travis Hunter just getting completely designed work. Like I want to see him play real wide receiver. Like this is on Liam Cohn too. Liam, let him go play on the outside. He can win as a true wide receiver. I love the design work. I love the screen pass, the drag routes. I love that. I want that in addition, but we're acting like Travis Hunter can't just go line up on the outside and beat anybody that's across from him.
Yeah, maybe for whatever reason they think he can't, and they think he can't handle playing on the outside. I don't know why, but I think that's probably where they're at with him.
If that's how they were thinking about him, they shouldn't have drafted him 2nd overall.
Well, again, they drafting him for the long term. Like, to give you an idea here, the Jacksonville Jaguars have the number 93 and 94 graded wide receiver out of 99 qualifying. So these 2 guys simply got to play a lot better, because De'Ami Brown is the highest scoring fantasy wide receiver from this offense right now.
By EPA? Like what's that?
By just PFF grade. I'm just looking at PFF grade. And Travis Hunter's 1.02 yards per route run. Brian Thomas 0.79.
Yeah, so we're going to need more going forward. But enough on the Jags receivers. You mentioned the Eagles wide receivers. So, I mean, we can briefly say this about Lab Mcconkey, also in the range of BTJ. We're not concerned here. Concern level, we would be at probably about a 2 out of 10, just because Keenan Allen.
I'd say 3, just because you have to adjust and bake in some expectation that Keenan Allen and Quentin Johnson are bigger parts of the offense than we thought coming into the season.
But I would counter the reason why I would be at about a 2 is because they're throwing the ball a fuck ton more than anybody expected.
Fair enough. Yeah, like a 24. Let's say we thought Mcconkey'd have a 28% to 30% target share this year. If he has a 24 to 26% target share on 100 more pass attempts than we were expecting, that'll probably even itself out and maybe even net positive, especially if Herbert is in MVP contention, which he very much could be.
Yeah, for sure. Eagles wide receivers, Devontae Smith currently the wide receiver 65 in fantasy. AJ Brown currently the wide receiver 85 in fantasy.
1.
And that's your concern level.
My concern level for these 2 guys is 1. I'm not concerned at all.
Concern in terms of what I expected coming into the year, probably about a 2 or a 3, because I expected them to throw the ball like a low amount. However, we just need AJ Brown specifically to play better. Like, I understand it was the hamstring injury. I understand that there's context here, but at the same time, we do need to see him look healthy. Like, he hasn't looked healthy.
Yeah. And Hurts needs to play better throwing the football too. He didn't really have a great game against Kansas City. I ultimately believe in this offense. I think they're going to win 11, 12 games, and Devontae Smith and AJ Brown are going to have their weeks. And yes, they're going to be run heavy. We knew that coming into the season. They're not going to be this run heavy because, as I mentioned in yesterday's video with AJ Brown and the previous week's video with Devontae Smith in the buy lows, it's going to regress to the mean a little bit. They got to play the Rams, Buccaneers, and Broncos the next 3 games. They're going to have to throw the ball more than 37% of the time in neutral pass rate. Yeah,
which, by the way, was I reading that right? That teams against you guys, 63% neutral pass rate?
Leads the league. Yeah, that leads the league.
They just don't even want to try to run the ball against your front.
Exactly. We're so easy to pass the ball against and so hard to run the ball against. We're the definition of a pass funnel defense, which is all the more concerning for Stroud and Nico Collins not being able to do a whole lot. on us in Monday Night Football there, especially given that Kalijah Kancey went down with an injury during that game, and our secondary was not playing at the highest level other than Tyke Smith and Winfield played pretty well, but other than them, they weren't really playing well.
For sure. We can move on to Marvin Harrison Jr., though. We talked about some second-year wide receivers. My concern level with Marvin Harrison Jr. is probably at about, honestly, I would say about a 5 or a 6, probably a 6, just because like I wanted to see him like have that statement performance. Don't get me wrong, J.C. Horn, number 1 graded corner in football so far. I mean, the EPA allowed that he has in the first 2 games. I was looking at his chart today. It was like,
he was like very top right,
very top right quadrant. So like he could very well be playing like the best corner in the NFL, and I get that, and I can't ding him too hard for losing that matchup. However, if you were, I'm going to take Marvin Harrison Jr. in the 3rd round because he's going to take that development path toward being a star, he doesn't look like a star right now. And who knows, maybe by week 6, week 7, week 8, it doesn't appear to be the case. Marvin Harrison Jr. stepped up, looks like that guy, but I had him as my wide receiver 12 or 13 entering the season. And now I think he's got to be viewed as a back-end wide receiver 2 going forward.
I'm not where you are. I'm a little bit more optimistic on Harrison. He had 18.1 PPR points in the first game, a 21% target share. Like, I think I want to see how September closes itself out before I move him down to that territory. And I still think that the wide receiver 1 range of outcomes is there for him, especially considering that some of the back end wide receiver 1s are not out to very good starts, right? Like Brian Thomas Jr., like AJ Brown, like Lad Mcconkey, some of the guys that we talked about already. So for me, I'm holding water on Marvin Harrison Jr. I would actually lean towards buying low on him, if anything.
Yeah. I mean, I agree in terms of like if the low is closer to wide receiver 38, he's my 19 rest of the season. Let me ask you a couple questions.
Well, he's my 14 rest of season, so I still have him pretty high.
So you clearly have him higher than me. I personally think there's no realm of possibility, given what we've seen in the first 2 weeks, that I can take him over Devontae Adams, Zay Flowers, Tedero McMillan, Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, the only one I have ranked over him in that group is Zay Flowers, but I do have Garrett Wilson and Tedero McMillan and Odunze and Adams and those guys like right behind him. So to me, he's within that tier.
I think Harrison over Odunze's take lock right now.
I'm not ready to say that yet. I'm not ready to say that yet.
The wide receiver 1 in usage, and he's the clear number 1 on his team. Whereas Marv, we're hoping, is the number 2, like the clear number 2. I think he's going to be the number 2. Don't get me wrong, but like
one more week, and I'll make that change.
Fair enough. I think the market's going to realize after Rome puts up 30 on the Cowboys this week.
If he puts 30 up on you guys, 30 fantasy points, he'll probably be a top 10 receiver from your rest of the season. I need to see it. I need to see the usage continue for one more stretch. And also I want to see what Harrison does this week as well.
Fair enough. Xavier Worthy, 0 out of 10. I mean, like in terms of like him playing. Now, obviously the concern is the injury. In terms of his role in the offense, they need wide receiver help bad. They can't separate on the outside. Travis Kelce looks washed. The need for Xavier Worthy would have me at a 0 to 10 in terms of if he was fully healthy, I expect him to produce at the level I expected coming into the year. The concern level is based off the injury. And I truly can't come up with a concrete number for what my Worthy level should be because I don't know where my Worthy should be. Sounds like he's going to play this week. I'm going to say around a 4 or a 5 out of 10 because I feel like halfway around, give or take, is where I should be. But if we get the report, he's fully recovered, he's ready to go, his role in this offense is pretty much set.
I'm at an 8 with Xavier.
You're at an
Worthy.
8.
I'm very worried about the injury. Yeah.
So specifically the injury, not
I'm not like,
okay.
So here's the thing with Xavier Worthy and why I'm, as a Xavier Worthy manager in the Flock League, I'm worried about him. Xavier Worthy is 165 pounds soaking wet. His shoulder injury is extremely high, prone to re-injury. And all of the docs have said, like, this is like a greater than 50% chance he re-aggravates this, he re-injures it. The timeline appears to be fast, which is maybe it's because he's young and he's got, healthy bones and all that kind of stuff, and he can recover faster than a 30-year-old would. But man, he's a small guy. I think he's the big hits that he's going to take in this offense, especially if he's a high volume target, 7, 8, 9 targets per game once he's back on the field. I would rather sell someone like, it sounds like your position,
where do you have him
that he is this like what this team needs right now, and I would rather just trade him straight for a Devontae Smith type or for somebody like that who I could just feel better about.
That's not the question though, because that was about his value range coming into the year. That's about where the market had him. I'm more so saying like if you had to sell him for the wide receiver 34 on the market right now, would you?
Well, my wide receiver 34 in my
Terry
rankings
McLaurin.
is Chris Olave, and I would sell him for Chris Olave right now.
Okay, so you would definitely be higher than me, probably 7 or 8. I'm right above that range. I'm at 30 right now is where I have Xavier Worthy ranked. So to me, I had him about, wide receiver 20 coming into the year, drop him 10 spots because I do think that range is pretty fluid. And I only have him at 30 because of the concern. So I'd say dropping him 10 spots within, a pretty similar tier, I think warrants about a 5 out of 10 scale.
Yeah, I have him at 36. So he's, again, I feel optimistic as a manager of Xavier Worthy that he's going to be something for me. I'm worried about re-injury for him. If we get, if I set the over-under on his games this year at 10.5, I think I would probably take the under on that. I really worry about him re-aggravating this injury and being out for the season. It reminds me a lot of Marquise Brown's injury last year where they were really optimistic about him and then they just shut him down.
Well, fair enough. I mentioned this name, Terry McLaurin, concern level here. I'd probably say about a 4 out of 10 because I think
think about where he was drafted.
Correct. Where
we had him ranked. Where was he? People spent a late 3rd, early 4th round pick on this guy. Probably
4 out of 10 based off where I was at with him. Probably about a 7 or 8 out of 10 if you're talking about in the context of a 3rd or 4th round pick. And I think gun to my head right now, the reason why it's that high is we were drafting him as the clear wide receiver 1 for an ascending offense. I think the first part of that sentence isn't even remotely true right now.
No, because not only is the quarterback banged up, which I've seen some docs echo the fact that, hey, this is a PCL injury. It could be an issue for him all season. Lamar Jackson actually had a season basically ruined by this injury when he had it, and it could limit Jaden Daniels' rushing, which of course will kind of limit the overall ceiling of the offense. So not only do you have Debo and him literally back-to-back in my rankings just from a pure production standpoint, I am actually worried just about the Commanders' offense in general, especially if Jaden Daniels isn't healthy. So for me, I would say that my concern level relative to a 3-4 turn asset that Terry McLaurin is legitimately a 9 or a 10. I would probably, if somebody is looking to buy low on Terry McLaurin right now, because that's what a smart fantasy player might be doing, trying to get, a discount on him, and they're willing to give you DK Metcalf or Chris Olave or Jamison Williams or Travis Hunter, Rashee Rice or George Pickens or something like that, I would get him off my roster if I were in many people's positions, because I have Terry McLaurin wide receiver 33 right now, and I'm worried about it because I have Debo at 29, and he's the one that I prefer of the two.
It's funny because I have Debo at 28 and McLaurin at 34, but keep in mind coming into the year, I probably had McLaurin at wide receiver 31. So you're right. It's based off where the market picked him, and if the market was valuing him wide receiver, he was top 17, wide receiver 3,
top 22, top 21,
higher than that, dude. He was wide receiver 16 or 17 in ADP, wasn't he?
Yeah, either way, you don't feel good if you spent a 3rd or a 4th or maybe a mid 4th round at the worst on Terry McLaurin. He fell to the 4-11 or whatever, 4-12 in our flock league, and I not many people saw him fall that far. He was generally off the board by the early to mid 4.
Well, the thing is too, I remember everybody was saying, "Oh my god, what a steal!" He fell to the 4-11, and me, I was only going to take Terry McLaurin if he was a 5-6 turn pick. That's where I had him. I had Doomsday ranked straight up over him.
I would have taken him at 503 over who did I take at 503? Jamison Williams. I would have taken him over Jamison Williams in that situation. But I just don't feel great about the offense. I don't feel great about the target share. And we said coming into the season, hey, if McLaurin's not getting these touchdowns like he was getting last year, it could be an issue. Now, he started slow last year too. So if you want to say he's a buy low candidate because he started slow and blah, 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 go ahead. I'm just worried. There's 2 major factors here, Deebo Samuel and the quarterback's health and the way that Terry's playing as well.
Yep, absolutely. Matthew Golden of the Green Bay Packers. In terms of the play itself, 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10. In terms of the fact that Jaden Reed is now going to be out indefinitely, both with a shoulder injury and his foot injury that was coming into the year, got surgery on both. I don't think Jaden Reed's going to play the rest of the year. So if we're talking about the expectation of Matthew Golden in fantasy, probably about a 3 because he doesn't look as good of a player, but the opportunity is there where if he does show he's that Matthew Golden first round pick, what he was able to do down the stretch for Texas, man, you're talking the ceiling is evidently higher without him in the lineup in regards to Jaden Reed.
Yeah, I'm at a 1 here.
Really?
So I had to say relative to the 7th or 8th round pick that you spent on him, it's probably about a 3 or a 4 because
that's what I mean.
You probably should have expected him to start a little slow given that he wasn't the most productive college player in the world. And they did have a crowded receiver core with a bunch of guys, but those guys are dropping like flies right now. So for me, I think he's one of the better buy lows in fantasy right now. If you can get your hands on him for wide receiver 40 to 50 price tags, he might even be dropped in some formats. Like, I think he's absolutely worth throwing onto the end of a package deal for sure.
Yeah, like he's currently my wide receiver 45 the rest of the season. I agree. 3 out of 10 based off if you select them in the 6th or 7th round. It has to be because we expect them in the next couple of weeks to assume that role. But at the same time, also Packers are running a rotation at wide receiver. Romeo Doubs led the position at 76% of the snaps. Like, it is still going to be a weird rotation. Like, Wicks is going to be involved. We saw Malik Heath make a play on the sideline. Like, I think that's what the Packers want to do. However, the opportunity is there. If Romeo Doubs is currently the leader in snaps right now, if Matthew Golden's who we thought he was, it shouldn't even be an issue. He will be the number 1 wide receiver in terms of snaps soon enough.
Yeah, well, that's exactly where I'm at with it because he's at 63% of the routes and an 8% target share right now. It can't really get much lower than that, which is why I think he's a good buy low at the moment. Because if the second he comes out and has 7 targets or something like that, he's going to just absolutely fly up people's rankings, and it's going to be really hard to acquire him. So that's why I lean towards buying him right now, and why I'm not that concerned. If you have him, just hold him. He'll probably gain some value over the next month or so. And if you don't have him, I'm sending offers. Quarterbacks and tight ends, we can quickly rattle through. Jalen Hurts, any concern? I'll just 20-second response for how concerned you are and a number.
2. The passing offense doesn't look good. I don't believe in Kevin Patullo in relation to a guy like Kellen Moore. However, you got the tush push, you got the rushing ability, and you got 2 of the best wide receivers in football. Even if we don't get a Jalen Hurts quarterback 1 overall year, I feel confident in saying he's going to be a top 4 or 5 quarterback. Yeah,
I'm about the same with him. Brock Bowers, of course, very expensive tight end. I would say right now he's tight end 8 and he's hurt. Given the injury, I'd bump that up to about a 3. But generally, the player, I'm not concerned at all.
I'm not concerned at all. I mean, it does sound like it's a short injury. On top of that, he has 16 targets in the first 2 games, despite getting inconsistent snaps. We actually did see his snaps, despite playing with an injury this week, go up between week 1 and 2. I don't know what was up with the usage in week 1, like 51% of the snaps, the route participation, but it is hilarious that he had what was the route participation in that game? Like 60% of the snaps?
Yeah, 48. It was low. Like, people were concerned that Mayer was going to be a major part of, taking him off the field.
As Brock Bowers had over 100 receiving yards in that game, by the way. So he's a unicorn. We're not worried. And I mean, he had 8 targets coming off the injury. So TJ Hawkinson, though, 10 out of 10.
You're 10 out of 10 worried about TJ Hawkinson?
Dog, he looks horrible.
He looks bad. I'll give you that horrible. For sure. He looks bad. I actually lean towards buying low on TJ Hawkinson. And the reason for that is because I think he's going to see a spike in value coming in the next few games with a veteran quarterback as opposed to a quarterback who looks like he's lost at sea.
Dude, if TJ Hawkinson can show me he can run, maybe that's why he's a buy low for you, because I mean, like, there's people like me who think this guy just can't run at this point. Like,
I mean, he's still playing 80% of the routes and he still has an 18% target share. And if Carson Wentz can get this offense moving 250 passing yards per game type of offense, I think you're going to see a couple of spike performances from Hawkinson over the next few weeks. So that would be my only counter to it, but I can't argue that he looks bad. He looks terrible right now.
I mean, like, the hope is maybe this is a 2024 Andrew situation where Andrew's off the car crash, started the year slow. A lot of people dropped him by week 4, week 5 last year. And then we saw the touchdown equity attached to a good offense, him playing better in the second half. And who knows, maybe this Vikings offense does have a lot more upside than it showed in the first 2 weeks, because we still believe in Kevin O'Connell and still believe in the infrastructure there. But I mentioned Andrews. Andrews is next up. You're an Andrews owner. I'll let you take the stage here.
Yeah, I have him in my home league and in the flock league. You can't start him right now. I'm not dropping him yet. I would say give it another 2 weeks before you send him to the waiver wire. But Isaiah likely could come back this week, which would be really bad news for Andrews, because this was supposed to be his time to shine, his time to get out to a hot start, his time to put up 8 for 60 and a touchdown or whatever, because, he's Mark Andrews and him and Lamar Jackson have had a connection for a while. But this Zay Flowers breakout has completely wiped him off the face of the earth in terms of his target share. So this has not been good. He had an opportunity to score a touchdown last week if he actually could catch the football. But even still, like, his stat line would have been 2 for 20 and a touchdown, best case scenario.
9 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm like legit 10 out of 10 concerned. Like, one more like one target game for him and I'm dropping him.
Yeah. Honest to God, I'm going to switch it. I'm going to make Hawkinson a 9 and Andrews a 10 because I am more worried about Andrews. And they were actually like similar-ish in cost. Like in home leagues, Andrews was like an 8th round pick. Hawkinson was like a 6th rounder. So we can move on though. A guy that was also going higher in home leagues, Evan Ingram. I mean, we weren't really drafting him much, but some people were. And what the fuck is he? Like, he's exactly what I said coming into the year. If he's not in a volume dominant role playing the Joker for the Jaguars, what's his use to an NFL offense? He's worse than your slot receiver, and he can't play in line.
Yeah, no, there are plenty of waiver wire options available that you can drop Evan Ingram for.
Dude.
I would rather roster, like, let alone Jawan Johnson's and Harold Fannon's, like the really good waiver additions that we've had the past couple of weeks, Zach Ertz, those type of guys. Definitely, I would rather roster those guys over Evan Ingram. But even like, I would take the swing on Jatavian Sanders having 9 targets last week over Evan Ingram. I would take the swing on Brenton Strange being involved in the Jaguars offense. Jake Ferguson was dropped by some people last week going into week 2. So there's no way that Evan Ingram should be rostered more than 20 to 30% of teams right now. Like legitimate, like the way that he's playing and the usage that he's getting is pretty much useless. Like if you had the option, let's say you have a Jawan Johnson or a Harold Fannin or somebody that you can start in the short term, I would rather pick up Isaiah Likely right now on the off chance that he completely alphas Mark Andrews than hold Evan Ingram and hope that he starts to get back to his full reps. Because this is stinking like Darren Waller on the New York Giants to me. Evan Ingram on this Broncos team.
Genuinely tell me with a straight face why Evan Ingram is a more worthwhile option to roster for me right now than Elijah Arroyo.
Yeah, you're genuinely probably right. Tell me why when Cade Stover comes back from injury, he's less valuable than Evan Ingram. Because at least in that first game, he had 4 targets and Dalton Schultz is kind of useless. Like it's possible he turns into something. Like Evan Ingram is pretty worthless in my mind.
I mean, like he's border, like you said, he's not rosterable right now. And I was going
to say
rather
Cade Otton. Cade Otton's 3rd most routes in the league at the tight end position.
Like, I'm sorry, maybe this guy isn't available right now. He's not available in many leagues, but like there's going to be some leagues right now, especially like more casual leagues, that new Evan Ingram coming in that maybe isn't as active on the wire, that you can straight up drop Evan Ingram for like Jawan Johnson for right now. And like, if that's the case, why haven't you done it already?
Yeah, no, exactly. And your boy Colston Loveland, I'm sure a lot of people in our audience drafted him because you had him ranked very high. I had him ranked very high. The concern level. I really want you, before you say a number, Danny, to try and take your Michigan and Colston Loveland take goggles off and just pretend that this is the guy that we're looking at maybe for the first time here. Colston Loveland's concern level is where?
4 out of 10. And the reason why it's 4 out of 10 is because unlike the Hawkinson, the Andrews, the Ingram, those guys you need production from right away. Colston Loveland, you drafted with the thesis that he was your upside shot, and you probably paired him, especially like if you're listening to us, you probably paired him with like a Tucker Kraft, somebody that can get you in the early season. The reason why it's 4 is because I wanted it to happen by now. I'm not going to hide that. But do I think it's not going to happen because the Bears offense doesn't look great right now? Because the Bears offense right now has Rome Odunze and nothing else in the passing game? Because the Bears offense right now, as good as Caleb Williams has looked, hasn't passed over 220 yards yet? I think sooner rather than later, Ben Johnson is going to look at the infrastructure of this offense, realize that DJ Moore's probably playing too many snaps. Olamide Zaccheaus isn't doing anything on the football field. And what is the purpose of Cole Kmet in the frame of this offense? I think sooner rather than later, Ben Johnson is going to look at this infrastructure and realize we need to use the players that we drafted. Like, that's really what it comes down to for me.
Yeah, I worry that it will continue for another little bit of time. So I'm up at about a 5 or a 6. I definitely think you should be stashing him. I don't think he's 100%. Droppable, and there's people dropping him right now. I would definitely stash him and see what happens. But as of right now, there's no chance you can put him in your starting lineup anytime soon until we see this usage correct itself. But at 48% and 51% of the routes, not really commanding targets, I would say that unless you feel confident you can hold this guy for another 3 to 4 weeks without ever having to make a decision on him, then that's kind of where you need to be at. Because by October, he should have better route participation, hopefully. And if he doesn't by then definitely he'll be droppable.
Which, again, I'm not going to try to make sense out of it because, I mean, all offseason reports with Ben Johnson led to the fact that you're getting Sam Laporta comps. You're talking about, I have the perfect plan for you is literally what he said to Colston Loveland when he drafted him. Ben, where's the fucking plan? Where is it? But seriously, you have this great plan for him. Where the fuck is it? Let's see it. We're going into week 3.
It might just be the kid's not ready to play full-time snaps yet, honestly.
I don't think Cole Kmet's ready to play full-time snaps. That guy sucks.
But Loveland's 21 years old and was a little bit raw coming out of school. So it's possible. Again, stash him. If you have Juwan Johnson, use Juwan Johnson for now. Don't put Colson Loveland out in your lineup. But if people are dropping Loveland in your league and you have Sam Laporta or some like every week starter at tight end, throw Colson Loveland at the end of your bench. He's the same kind of upside swing as a handcuff running back would be, only maybe even higher because he has a chance to establish himself at a position that doesn't have a ton of great options.
Yeah, like in a position that is so top heavy. If you don't have one of, realistically from a pure production standpoint, McBride, Bowers, Kraft, Warren right now, and then if Laporta can get back to what he was showing in week 1, Laporta at that 5 spot. If you don't have one of those 5 tight ends, like George Kittle, he's hurt right now. Obviously, when he's healthy,
the next best option might be Kyle Pitts, legitimately, after those 5.
Travis Kelce as well, Jake Ferguson, Mark, like we talked about Andrews. I mean, David Njoku's playing snaps now with Daryl Fannin. Like, if you don't have one of those 5 tight ends, swing for the fences. Because guess what? Coming into the season, the thesis for Tyler Warren was the thesis for Colson Loveland. Tyler Warren, he's already producing. Of course, he's going to be ranked higher. But he was ready by the market to be anointed as the tight end 4. If Colson Loveland goes out there for the Bears and becomes the number 2 target, which I think he can be, we're talking about a similar type of rise. We're talking about a top 6 tight end rest of the season. It's a free dart throw.
Yeah, no, exactly. Especially like I'm in leagues where he was dropped. And I know plenty of you guys out there are in leagues where he was dropped as well. So definitely go stash him. Even if you have a lockdown tight end already, just stash him for a couple of weeks, see what happens. But that is the end of the video. Today we went through kind of panic meter. Are we panicking? Are we not panicking? Hopefully we talked some of you guys off the ledge on some of these players, and maybe we made even more of you more anxious than you already were, specifically on some of the guys that we are actually panicked about that we talked about. If you guys enjoyed this video, leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here, comment down below any of your thoughts. Who are you panicked on that we didn't talk about? Maybe we can give you some thoughts in the comment section as well, give you a rating out of 10. And of course, if you want all of our rest of season rankings, trade calculator, my team's feature, everything is over on flockfantasy.com. You can get a free team review if you sign up annually right now using the code FSE for an annual Mother Flocker. You get 30% off and you can start a 7-day free trial. But with that being said, peace out. We'll talk to you soon.